Good morning. This week, the theme that comes to me from John's story of Jesus is the story of love. Love is really significant. It's imperative in our lives. To give and receive love is vital to humans. Without love, we shrivel, we die. It's central to everything we are. It's central to all the stories and the songs and the things we tell and the way we describe life. Relationships are central to who we are as people. Yet this theme of love pulls me in many directions, as it does when I hear the stories in the life of the world, in the pop songs, in the movies, and in all the places where we talk of love. There's the essence of the reality of love, but it's interpreted and transformed and changed at the edges. It's pulled in many directions and distorted through our fear and struggles, our confusion, our jealousies, our greed, our need to be in control, and our responses to the world. But perhaps the most difficult thing I find is the vulnerability of love. Love calls us to be completely vulnerable and open, and that's something we find really difficult. And so as I share something of this theme, I recognise how challenging and confronting it is for me. Something that I need to work on and learn and grow into, as I think we all do. And yet love is the central thing that will bring hope and peace to people in our world. There's a story I read many years ago. I don't know who wrote it. It's a story that stayed with me. There's this young man who got on a street corner and he called out to people, come and see my perfect heart. My perfect heart, come and look. And this crowd gathered around on the street corner. And as they did, he stripped off his cloak and opened his shirt and showed them this shiny, glowing, perfectly smooth heart. Look at my heart. Look at my perfect heart, he said. And the crowd oohed and ahed. Wow, look at the heart. They were mesmerised by this perfect heart. An old gentleman pushed his way through the crowd and came up to the front, and he says, son, let me see your heart. And the young fellow shows him his heart. And the old fellow says, son, that's not a perfect heart. Let me show you something that's closer to perfect. And he took off his coat, opened his shirt, and revealed a heart that was bruised and damaged and broken, that had scratches and scars and bumps and lumps and distorted and bits missing. He said, that's a heart that's close to perfect. And the young fellow scoffed at him. What? Look at mine, beautiful, smooth, glowing. Yours, old, worn, broken, damaged, scarred. And the crowd laughed and scoffed with him. After a bit, the old man motions for silence, and he speaks and he says, son, see this lump here, this bump here, that one was when I met my first love. Oh, the world stopped on its axis the day I saw her. We loved each other. There are scratches and we had our moments, but we loved each other. But then this hole is when we broke up. Realised it couldn't be. That hole is nearly filled in. There's a scar and I think of her. My first love. This lump, this bump, this is when I met the woman who had become my wife. And again, the world stood still and time, it was wonderful, magic. We had many years of love together, life together. There are scratches, we had our moments. And this long scar, this was the conflict that nearly tore us apart. But we saved it. We came together, we confessed and forgave one another. And we went on to live happily together. This hole, this deep hole, this is the day that she died and left me. And this broken part of my heart, this bit that's broken off, she took that part of her heart with her, into the grave. Maybe one day we'll be reunited and she'll give me that part of my heart back. This bump, this was when we wanted to start our own family, and we had dreams and anticipated expectations. That little hole is when we discovered we couldn't bear children of our own. But then the lump next to it is when we were able to adopt our beautiful daughter. And you can see the scratches and bruises around there. Adolescence is hard, and we had our tiffs. But you can see the lump is growing, the bump is growing. She is a beautiful young woman, the pride of my life, and we love each other. There are many other scars and bumps and lumps on my heart, because that's what love is. Love embraces us, and we embrace it, and it leaves its wounds when we hurt each other. But the heart bears the wounds and the scars, the joy and the pain of love. I love that story because for me it's an image and a metaphor of the heart of God. The heart of God, of love at the heart of all, the centre of all things. That I can just picture this God whose heart is broken time and again by we, his children whom he loves, who scratch and scrape and claw back through our jealousy, our fear, our confusion, our own hurts. We cause pain to one another and to the God who loves us, who holds us. And I think this story of love is central to this message of Christian faith and other faiths, that this God of love at the centre of all things holds us in love and travels with us in every moment of life, and embraces the pain and the struggle, the joy, the hopes, the fears that we experience. And that those experiences that we have touch the heart, the very heart of God. And in the story, the bit of the story we read this week, Jesus is sitting with his friends, his disciples, near his death. He knows that death is imminent. In this last meal he shares with them, he washes their feet. He takes water and washes their feet and says, "This is my way, cleansing you, but this way of service and of love. Remember that." And he goes on and he says, "A commandment, a new commandment I give you. Love one another in the same way that I've loved you. Love one another in the same way that I've loved you. And when you do this, everyone will know that you are my followers, that my way is a true way, the way of God. If you don't do this, they won't see and they won't know. And they won't understand this love of God for them and for the world." And as the story that John tells continues, Jesus is then swept up in this arrest and trial and this unjust punishment, being sentenced to death. And he embraces the way of suffering. He embraces what the powers and principalities of the world can do to him in their violence and their anger and their fear and their jealousy and their rage. And on the cross in John's story, he's hanging there dying and he says, "It is finished." This way of violence, this way of oppression and power, of judgment, of anger, of fear, is shown up for what it is. In me embracing this, I'm taking it, absorbing it into the heart of God. And what will come is new life, resurrection. Because he knows that the only way to overcome the evil, the violence, the pain of the world is in love. Love is the only thing that is strong enough to hold that. And he embraces it in himself. And in embracing it, it is embraced in this heart of God. And the next bit of the story is resurrection, this mystery that we celebrate, resurrection, this life rising up in a new way in the world, in a new way that gives hope and life and the expression of love in a deeper, more profound way, that says the power of violence and evil is not the last word. In fact, it is not the most powerful force in the world. All the bombs and military and all the armaments that people bring not the last word and are not the last power in the world. Love lasts beyond all else. This is the story that we tell. This is the story we share. And in Jesus' words, love one another as I've loved you, is the profound challenge. I mean, this is the one whose life would change direction in response to injustice, whose life would change direction in response to fear and loathing and marginalisation and powerlessness and hunger and judgment. This is the one whose life would change direction in response, in love, towards the ways, the people of the world that needed it, who would give up everything for the sake of love, and invites us to do the same. And that's why I find it so hard. I believe in it, but it's so hard. He became so vulnerable before people, before the powers of the world, before all people, and he loved them. He invites us to do the same. Maybe it's one step at a time, learning to love a little by little by little, letting go of fear, letting go of control, letting go of the things that hold me, and trusting in this way of love. And when I do, maybe the world, my little bit of the world, will change in response. Really, it's the only way we have. It's a profound way. And if we all loved in the way that Jesus loved, how different this world would be. How different our families, our communities, and our churches would be. Imagine our churches that love one another so profoundly and deeply that the world could see the light of Christ in them, God's love in them, reflected and shining. And it's not just churches, it's everywhere. Wherever people love deeply, sacrificially and profoundly, God is there, reaching out. God is there and invites us into that journey. Will you follow?